Hello and welcome to a new trip report here on the channel where we will try to answer the question, is it still worth flying with Lufthansa? And we will get into this much more in depth throughout the video, but first I need to head through security. Alright, so we made it through security. Fast and easy, as I like it. It's not very busy today, to be honest. Could be much worse. So let's talk about today's flight, shall we? We are going to Munich with Lufthansa. The interesting part about that is that firstly the route to Munich is relatively new. It was only opened this summer, or earlier this year, let's say it like this. We were actually here for the route opening event and could do a little bit of reporting here for Inside Flyer.
Munich will not only fit perfectly for the industry here, but as I always say, once you fly more than one hub, you're not adding routes, you're multiplying the connections to the world. And especially Munich, which is by far, I think since years, the highest decorated and passenger-friendly airport in Europe.
It fits perfectly in our strategy. The strategy is to connect Western Denmark with the direct services wherever there is a demand. And we analyze this several times a year. And due to that fact, there has been a demand for Munich for several years.
Lufthansa has been flying from Billund to Frankfurt for years, and now they are also offering flights to Munich. So the route itself is perhaps not new, but it's not been active for at least 10 years. I used to fly between Billund and Munich quite frequently back in the day when the route was still operated by a little Danish airline, now defunct, known as Kimber. They used to fly the route with their small CRJ900, 200 aircraft. But as I say, since this year, Lufthansa has picked up the route again, which is really, really nice, because what it mainly means is that when traveling with Lufthansa out of Billund, you now have the option of using Munich instead of Frankfurt, which is a huge benefit, because Frankfurt, honestly speaking, is a quite terrible airport to travel to and from. So yes, as I say, I'm very excited to finally be flying on the route again. But there's one more thing which makes me quite excited about today's flight, and that is simply the fact that I have not been traveling with Lufthansa for 3 years now. My last flight with Lufthansa was in December 2019, so just before the pandemic hit. And I'm very, very excited to see what has changed. I know a lot of it has changed with Lufthansa itself, with their service on board. But one thing is reading about what has changed, the other thing is experiencing it yourself firsthand. So I am very, very excited to see what it's all about. Let me be very clear here, I don't have very high hopes when it comes to the service on board or in general flying with Lufthansa. They have cut away pretty much everything that made them a full service airline. They are now a very expensive version of Ryanair, basically. But it might just be a misconception from my side. So we will see today how Lufthansa is doing with their service from Billund to Munich. Billund Airport is notoriously slow in announcing the gate, but thanks to Lufthansa sending out regular updates about the flight status, I already know that our gate today will be gate 12, so there is no need to keep wandering around. With a few minutes delay, boarding is finally beginning, and not unusual for Billund Airport, this is done by simply shouting into the departure hall instead of using the PA system. That passengers might not always understand Danish is also something regularly ignored by Billund Airport staff, but let's just gloss over this for now. Lufthansa is using the Bombardier CRJ900 on the Munich route, which is the airline's smallest aircraft type. While I have always appreciated the aesthetics of the CRJ, traveling with the plane as a passenger is much less of a joy, as it is more resembling a toy plane rather than a real aircraft. While boarding the aircraft, the crew is handing out complimentary bottles of water, which is definitely much appreciated, and any airline that does so has a spot in my good books. Today's flight, LH2435, has an estimated flight time of 1 hour and 20 minutes, and we'll be spending that time in seat 21F. And since we are talking seats, those are the standard Lufthansa Euro Economy seats that are about as soft as a plank of wood, but for a short flight as ours today, it's just fine. Above 2 hours and it might start getting a little uncomfortable. The seat pitch is alright, but despite advertising themselves as being the premium carrier, Lufthansa is still unable to provide Wi-Fi or power plugs on many of their flights. The overhead compartments on the CRJ are unsurprisingly rather small, which is also why most carry-ons are collected in front of the plane prior to boarding the aircraft. Gone are the days of a printed in-flight magazine, but in fairness to Lufthansa, they offer a wide range of digital reading material in their app. The printed issue of the Lufthansa World Shop is however still a thing. I guess when there is money to be made, the additional weight on the plane doesn't matter. Changed has also the onboard service concept, but let's get into that after the takeoff. In my experience, the onboard service is often started by crews at the earliest time possible, but not so today. It's not an issue, but after 3 years of Lufthansa free flying, the delay in service almost made me think that there wouldn't be any service apart from that initial bottle of water. So I was just about to take my obligatory power nap when I did get a bit more curious about what Lufthansa's onboard offerings would be if they indeed would be offered on today's flight. Gone are the days of complimentary food and drinks apart from that mentioned water, but those who have experienced Lufthansa sandwiches in the past will know that that isn't much of a loss. The offered products are very much in line with the offerings of pretty much all other airlines, but what I must admit surprised me were the prices. None of it is cheap, but relatively speaking, for onboard food and beverages, Lufthansa's prices seem to be quite fair. €3.50 for a half-liter Coke or €3.20 for a small beer. Okay, it's Beck's, which hardly qualifies as beer, but still. Or one of my favorites, a decent gin with Bombay Sapphire for €6.50 or in combination with a tonic water for €9. My favorite deal was, however, the offered sandwich with a hot or soft drink for €7.50. Above 30,000 feet, almost a bargain, but, and there is a massive but, the best offer in the world is just not much worth when it's not available. And I'm very sorry, Lufthansa, but on a midday flight on board an aircraft that had come in from your second and arguably best hub, to then not have any food on board apart from some rather boring snacks is poor. So I guess no lunch for me today. now that we are getting closer to Munich airport, I am asking myself the question, is it still worth flying with Lufthansa compared to other airlines and especially low-costers? Because on the cheap economy ticket, where you will be traveling only with hand luggage unless you pay additionally for checked-in luggage, and if you want to choose your seat, Lufthansa charges an astronomical and completely detached from reality's 25 euros. What are you actually getting for your money? You could pay for the more expensive economy fares like Classic or Flex and get most or all of the before mentioned services included with your fare, but the onboard product is still the same. Any onboard amenities need to be purchased additionally, and so what is the difference to a low-coster? Apart from even the cheapest economy ticket still being way more expensive than the alternatives. And this is my big problem with Lufthansa today. The onboard product offered is in no way differing anymore from those pesky low-costers, so why should people pay more than on Ryanair, Wizz Air or EasyJet? There are of course other things apart from the raw onboard product, such as how an airline is treating customers when things go wrong with delays or cancellations, and it is here where Lufthansa in my experience has been much more customer friendly compared to low-costers. But this is also a point where Lufthansa unfortunately over the past years has gone somewhat downhill. Their frequent flyer program can also add a lot of useful benefits to one's travel experience, but the money you need to spend to actually achieve those benefits just doesn't add up in terms of value for money.
So that's about it. So what do you think? Is it still worth the money flying with a legacy carrier like Lufthansa, or are you saying, like me, perhaps they have reduced the service to such a level that you could just as easily just save the money and fly with a low-coster? Let me know in the comment section below what your thoughts are on this topic. But for now, this is all I have to say. So thank you very much for having joined me on this trip from Billund to Munich with Lufthansa on one of their little CRJ900 aircraft. Of course, don't forget, if you like content like this, to leave a like, and you're always welcome to hit subscribe. With that, thank you very much for having joined me today. See you in the next trip report.